Alright, hopheads, today's video is just for you. Did you know that humans have been consuming cannabis since 4000 BCE? And that 7 former US presidents preferred getting stoned over getting drunk? And no, Donald Trump isn't part of the list.
Law and order and security.
Though I wouldn't be surprised if he had a secret smoking chamber where he relaxed to a few puffs. I promise to tell you these 7 ex-presidents if you promise to watch till the very end. Pinky swear, anyone? Alright, now pass that joint. We start with ancient Egyptians. We all see the ancient Egyptians as a hard-working, progressive lot who were determined to confound modern scientists by building pyramids. But what you might not know is that the Egyptians loved to get baked on the Blue Lotus. Take a trip through time to ancient Egypt, and you are sure to find men getting stoned while they conceptualized pyramids. An indigenous plant of the shallow banks of the river Nile, the Blue Lotus was an integral part of Egyptian society and was often included in their rituals and religion. They observed that its flower usually opened at sunrise and closed at sunset, so they associated it with the rising and setting of the sun. As time went on, it became a symbol of death and resurrection and was often depicted in tombs to help the mummies along their journey into the afterlife. The Blue Lotus was also included in offerings to Ra and Osiris, the gods of the sun and resurrection, respectively. I don't know if these gods partook on the flower in the infernal flames of the underworld. However, their adherents loved to get high on the Blue Lotus during specific religious rites and rituals. It was either brewed as tea or steeped in wine and served to the priests and participants to aid their spiritual awakening. The more adventurous ones dried the petals of the flower and mixed them into other herbs and smoked them to induce a state of mild euphoria and altered consciousness. Interestingly, the Aztecs also employed similar psychoactive substances in their rituals and religion. However, unlike the Egyptians, the Aztecs were more experimental, preparing their drugs from a variety of plants and animals. Their most common source was the bufo, a large toad native to South America. They hunted these harmless creatures and pressed their glands till they secreted fluids, which were then collected and dried into a resin. Once they were ready to get high, the Amazonians placed the resin in a pipe, lit it up, and smoked away to Gloryland. I'm curious, between the Blue Lotus and the bufo toad, which one of these is guaranteed to give you the best euphoric feeling? Vote for Blue Lotus by liking this video, and the bufo toad by commenting "bufo" down in the comments box. Now, it is believed that the Aztecs saw and communed with their gods during these high episodes, which is probably why their deities always look like the nightmare of a 5-year-old. Take a cursory look at some of the Aztec gods, and you'll struggle to fathom how sober people could come up with such concepts. You see my point? The Aztecs loved to get baked on mushrooms, and their favorite was the psilocybin. But it was so expensive that only the tribe's elite could afford it. The psilocybin was considered a premium drug, essentially the pure cocaine of the society, and they would gladly give their lives to experience its psychoactive properties. It was a common sight to see leaders of the tribe in literal high spirits, puffing out a few smokes at religious gatherings while enjoying the spectacle unfolding before their very eyes. Speaking of mushrooms, did you know that recent studies suggest that smoking magic mushrooms can improve the health of your brain? You didn't? Well, now you know. My research shows that magic mushrooms increase the number and strength of neuronal connections to the brain. To simplify the scientific mumbo-jumbo, all it really means is that shrooms could improve learning, memory, and problem-solving skills. There is an anthropological theory that suggests that humans began to speak thanks to magic mushrooms. This is the stoned ape hypothesis. Google it if you don't believe me. I bet you didn't know this. Another reason why you should subscribe to this channel is it's free. In the dense ancient forests of northern Europe and Siberia, a vibrant red mushroom with white spots, known as the Amanita muscaria or fly agaric, has captured the imagination of people for centuries. This iconic mushroom, often depicted in fairy tales and folklore, holds a mysterious and somewhat magical reputation. The story of the red toadstool begins with the indigenous tribes of Siberia. The shamans of these tribes discovered the powerful psychoactive properties of the Amanita muscaria and integrated it into their spiritual practices. The mushroom was believed to be a divine mediator, enabling communication with the spirit world. Shamans consumed the mushroom during rituals to enter into altered states of consciousness, where they sought guidance and visions from the spirits. One of the most intriguing aspects of this drug is its alleged use by the Viking berserkers, the fierce Norse warriors known for their ferocity in battle. It is said that these warriors consumed the mushroom before combat to induce a trance-like state of rage, making them fearless and seemingly invincible. This practice contributed to their legendary status and might have been the source of their supernatural strength and endurance on the battlefield. Maybe that's what Panoramic's cauldron was all about. Amanita muscaria also has a surprising connection to modern-day Christmas traditions. In Siberia, shamans would dress in red and white attire to resemble this sacred mushroom. They would gather the mushrooms and distribute them as gifts to the community during the winter solstice celebrations. Some anthropologists suggest that this practice influenced the depiction of Santa Claus, with his red suit and white trim, and the tradition of gift-giving during the Christmas season. You're welcome. On the other hand, the ancient Greeks also used psychoactive drugs, but these were only reserved for a secret religious sect, the Eleusinian Mysteries. This secret cult believed it held the keys to the mysteries of life and the afterlife, which could only be accessed through an altered state of consciousness. I believe it was just an excuse to get high, but hey, don't take my word for it. The secret cult held annual ceremonies at which new participants were initiated into the cult, which was based on the worship of Demeter and Persephone. The highlight of these ceremonies was the consumption of the kaikon, a drink made from barley soaked in water alongside other ingredients. The kaikon altered the participants' reality, allowing them to have fellowship and become one with the divine. There they can access the secret to life and understand all the mysteries that the sober mind can't comprehend. Aside from their getting baked, ancient cultures used these drugs for medicinal purposes. It was like killing two birds with one stone, getting stoned while receiving treatment at the same time. One such plant is the ayahuasca of the Amazon, which dates back to 2000 BCE. These herbs were used to heal physical, emotional, and spiritual ailments such as mood disorders, pain, and anxiety. Ayahuasca was a combination of the Banisteropsis capi vine and the leaves of the Psychotria viridis shrub. It was usually consumed in a ritualistic setting, where a shaman prepared the brew and led his congregants through a series of intense rituals. These rituals were part of the healing process, which often involved chanting and falling into trances. Interestingly, ayahuasca ceremonies have prevailed to this day, with many from the Western world taking trips to the Amazon to seek alternative treatment. Some have actually reported having a transformative experience, resulting in their healing. But before you pack your bags and hop on the next flight to the Amazon, it'll be in your best interest to do your due diligence first. Ayahuasca contains DMT, a psychoactive substance that makes its way to the brain, where it attaches itself to the region that controls excitement and happiness. This activity elicits hallucinatory experiences, with users often describing traveling at the speed of light through a bright tunnel filled with various shapes. Others also narrate out-of-body experiences, where they see strange objects, creatures, and enchanting colors that lift up their moods. The last time I smoked a blunt, I saw a huge African elephant riding a bicycle in a pink miniskirt. I'm never going back. Now, if you're thinking ayahuasca, kaikon, and Blue Lotus are the only mind-altering drugs from ancient history, let me surprise you. Cannabis has been with us since time immemorial. Existing records indicate that ancient civilizations such as the Assyrians, Hindus, Greeks, and Romans explored both the recreational and medicinal properties of the plant. In fact, ancient Hindu texts reveal that weed was the favorite food of Lord Shiva and was often used to appease him. You see, people believe that the high temperatures associated with fever were a result of a fiery breath emanating from the nostrils of the Shiva. So, to appease him, they used his favorite plant, cannabis. Now, if you want to know whether Shiva got stoned or not, leave a comment, and I'll reply with his email address so you can ask him yourself. Interestingly, some historical figures smoked cannabis and were so hooked that they grew the herb in their backyards. which brings me to the promise I made earlier. These 7 ex-presidents who preferred getting high to getting drunk. 1 is the founder of the United States, George Washington, who is on record as having grown some hemp at his estate. Thomas Jefferson didn't only grow cannabis in his backyard, but advocated for its natural cultivation due to its agricultural values. James Madison praised weed for helping him create a new and democratic nation. Is that why all of our politicians seem confused now? Anyway, James Monroe probably zoned out before creating the Monroe Doctrine, a foreign policy that prevented Europe from ever colonizing any part of the Americas. But if you think that consumption among great figures is a completely new idea, you are very wrong. Alexander the Great was reportedly introduced to various psychoactive substances during his campaigns in Asia. Some historical accounts suggest that he consumed opium, which was used widely in the regions he conquered for both medicinal and recreational purposes. Cleopatra is said to have used opium for its analgesic properties. Opium was a common remedy in ancient Egypt, used to relieve pain and induce sleep, and Cleopatra's access to such substances was likely due to her royal status. Coming back to the other green presidents, Andrew Jackson, Zachary Taylor, and Franklin Pierce all had a taste for weed during their time in the military, with Pierce testifying to his family about its potency. And that's a promise fulfilled. And by the way, just in case you're truly interested in today's topic, check out my new book called Harry Pothead and the Magical Herb. And while you're at it, check out this video on Aztec legends. Just give it a click, and I'll see you there. And until next time, thanks ever so much for watching.